You know that feeling when you look at your paycheck and realize that after taxes, after rent, after all your basic expenses, there's basically nothing left? The money evaporates between your direct deposit and the real world. You watch people talking about investment portfolios and rental properties and passive income and think, how are they doing this? They must make way more money than me. Well, what if building real wealth on an average American salary isn't actually that complicated? It doesn't require six figures or secret knowledge. Some of the wealthiest people I know started making ordinary money. They understood something most people miss: the difference between earning an average salary and building wealth on an average salary. Most people just survive on their paycheck. Some use it as a tool to build something real. If you're tired of feeling like wealth building is impossible without a fancy job, and you want to understand how regular people with regular salaries build real wealth, subscribe and hit that like button. What I'm about to share is the actual truth about how normal people build wealth, and it's much more achievable than you think. The truth is, building wealth on an average American salary comes down to understanding a few core principles that most people never actually learn or implement. And once you understand these principles, you realize that the only thing standing between you and real financial progress is a series of choices that you make every single month. So let's talk about what average actually looks like in America right now, because I think a lot of people are confused about this. The median household income in the U.S. is somewhere around $75,000 per year. That's household income, meaning if you've got two people working, that's what you're bringing in combined. For a single person, the median income is closer to $50,000 to $55,000 annually. Now, after taxes, Social Security, Medicare, and everything else the government takes, you're probably bringing home somewhere between $35,000 and $40,000 per year. That's something like $2,900 to $3,300 per month. And before you think about saving, investing, or building any kind of wealth, that money needs to cover your rent or mortgage, your food, your transportation, your utilities, everything. When you look at it that way, it seems almost impossible to build wealth, right? I mean, how are you supposed to save and invest when you're barely keeping your head above water? But here's where most people get it completely wrong. They think building wealth is this binary thing where you either earn enough money to easily save 30% of your income, or you're just stuck. But that's not how it works at all. The math of building wealth on an average salary is actually pretty forgiving if you understand what you're actually trying to do. See, most people approach building wealth like they're trying to sprint. They think they need to save as much money as possible, as fast as possible, or it's never going to happen. But that's not the game at all. The game is consistency over long periods of time. It's about finding a way to save and invest even small amounts regularly, and then letting time and compound interest do the absolute heavy lifting for you. This is where the average salary person actually has a massive advantage over people who think they need to earn six figures. Because if you're earning an average salary and you figure out how to save even $200 per month consistently, you're going to build wealth. It might not happen in 3 years, but it will happen. And that's what matters. Let's talk about the first principle that separates people who build wealth from people who stay broke on an average salary. And this principle is something I call understanding your true necessities. Most people think their necessities are way higher than they actually are. They look at their rent, their car payment, their phone bill, their subscription services, their gym membership, their streaming services, and they think all of it is necessary. But it's not. A lot of what people think is necessary is actually just habit or lifestyle inflation. We've gotten so used to having certain things that they feel like necessities, but they're really not. So here's what I want you to do. Actually sit down and make a list of what you genuinely need to survive. And I mean genuinely. Not what makes you comfortable, not what your friends have, not what you think you should have. What do you actually need? For most people, that's going to be rent or mortgage, basic utilities, food, basic transportation, and maybe insurance. That's the core. Everything else is on top of that. And here's the reality that might sting a little bit. If you're earning an average salary and you're spending more than 60 to 65% of your take-home pay on those true necessities, then you probably have a spending problem or an income problem or both. And that's the hard truth. But the good news is that most people don't actually need to spend that much. When I look at actual average expenses, most people are spending 45 to 55% of their take-home on those core necessities, which means there's actually room in the budget for saving and investing. There's real breathing room. The problem is that instead of channeling that extra money into wealth building, people are spending it on things they don't need. They're buying new clothes they don't wear. They're eating out 5 times a week. They're paying for subscription services they forgot about. They're spending money on stuff because it's convenient or because they deserve it or because everyone else is doing it. They're spending $100 a month on coffee, or $50 a month on energy drinks, or $80 a month on streaming services they never use. I mean, think about it. The average person spends over $3,000 per year on coffee, dining out, and random purchases. That's literally like throwing away a significant chunk of potential wealth every single year. If you cut that in half, you've got $1,500 more to work with annually. And $1,500 per year is $125 per month. That's a real amount of money that could be going toward building wealth instead of just disappearing. So the first step to building wealth on an average salary is getting clear about what you're actually spending. Go back and look at your last 3 months of bank statements and credit card bills. Add up everything. Where is every dollar going? Once you know that number, you can start making changes. If you don't know where your money is going, you're flying blind. And you can't build wealth when you're flying blind. The second principle is understanding the power of small, consistent contributions over long periods of time. This is where the math gets really interesting and honestly where most people start to see why this actually works. Let's say you're earning that average $55,000 salary and you bring home about $3,200 per month after taxes. Let's say your true necessities are about $1,008, zero per month. That leaves you with $1,400 of discretionary money. If you decided to save just $300 of that per month, that would leave you with $1,100 for everything else, and $1,100 per month for entertainment, dining out, hobbies, going out with friends. Everything else, that's actually pretty reasonable. Most people could live on that without feeling deprived. They're not eating ramen noodles and never going anywhere. They're just being intentional instead of mindless. So now, you're saving $300 per month, which is $3,600 per year. If you invested that money in a simple index fund earning 8% annually, which is below historical market averages, after 10 years you'd have about $50,000. After 20 years you'd have about $150,000. After 30 years you'd have about $350,000. And that's just from saving $300 per month on an average salary. That's not some crazy amount of money. That's just $300. If you pushed it to $400 per month, after 30 years, you'd have over $450,000. And remember, this assumes you don't get any raises, you don't increase your contributions, and the market earns a modest 8%. In reality, most people would increase their savings over time as they get raises or pay off debt, which would accelerate these numbers significantly. This is just basic math and compound interest. Most people don't believe this is possible. They think they need to save thousands per month. But that's wrong. Small amounts invested over decades create generational wealth. That's how it works. If you save $300 a month starting at 35, by 65, you'll have substantial savings. Starting at 25 gives you even more. Time is your greatest asset when earning an average salary. You can't buy time, but you can invest it. And that's what wealth builders do. The third principle is being intentional about where you're actually spending the rest of your money. So you've figured out your necessities. You've set up your monthly savings contribution. Now you've got the remainder to spend on everything else. And this is where people usually mess up completely. They get some breathing room and immediately inflate their lifestyle. They think they deserve it, they've been good, they've been saving, so now they can treat themselves. They can upgrade their apartment, they can buy a nicer car, they can eat out more often, and before they know it, that extra money's gone, and they're back where they started. They're still living paycheck to paycheck, they're just doing it at a higher expense level. But here's the thing, you don't have to never enjoy your life. You don't have to eat ramen noodles and never go out. You don't have to be miserable just because you're trying to build wealth. But you do have to be intentional about where your discretionary money goes, because every dollar you're not spending on necessities and savings is money you're choosing to spend. And those choices add up. They add up every single month, and over years they become enormous. Let me give you an example. Let's say you've got that $300 per month going to savings. You've got your $1,800 for necessities. That leaves you with $1,100. Now, you could spend that $1,100 on random stuff throughout the month and have nothing to show for it at the end. You go out whenever you feel like it. You buy things on impulse. You eat wherever you want. And then at the end of the month, you look at your bank account and think, where did all my money go? Or you could be strategic about it. Maybe you decide that $300 goes to entertainment and dining out. $200 goes to hobbies or personal development. $200 goes to clothes and personal care. $400 stays in checking as a buffer for the unexpected. Just being intentional about allocating that money changes everything. You're not depriving yourself. You got $300 for going out and eating nice meals and having fun. That's plenty. You've got $200 for hobbies or taking classes or doing things you enjoy. You're not sitting at home miserable. You're just being conscious about where it's going instead of wondering where it all disappeared to. You're in control of your money instead of your money being in control of you. The fourth principle that matters for average salary people is having a vehicle for your money that works for you. Most keep it in a regular savings account earning 0.01% or let it sit in checking where they spend it. Better options exist. High-yield savings earns 4 or 5%. Index funds earn 8 to 10%. Employer 401k matching is free money most leave on the table. A Roth IRA grows tax-free. These aren't just for rich people. You can start with $100 or invest $50 monthly. The vehicle you choose determines how much your money works. In checking earning zero, it's not working. In something earning returns, your money makes money while you sleep. That's how regular people on average salaries build wealth. They don't earn massive incomes. They make sure their money works for them. The fifth principle is understanding that your salary might be average, but your financial situation doesn't have to be. This is where people really mess up their thinking. They think if they're earning $55,000 per year, they're destined to stay middle class forever. They think they don't earn enough to build wealth, but that's not true at all. Because building wealth isn't actually about how much you earn. It's about how much you keep and how hard you make that kept money work for you. It's a percentage game, not an absolute number game. I know people making $40,000 per year who are building real wealth. They're consistently saving 10 or 15% of their income and investing it. I also know people making $150,000 per year who are completely broke. They're spending 110% of their income because they've inflated their lifestyle to match their high earnings. The difference isn't their salary. The difference is their system and their discipline. The people building wealth have a system for their money. They know what they earn, down to the dollar. They know what they're spending because they actually look at it. They know what they're saving. They know where their savings are invested and how much it's growing. They know what their goals are. They know when they're going to hit those goals. And they don't deviate from the system just because they had a bad day or they saw something shiny they wanted to buy or they got an unexpected bonus. They stick to the plan. But here's what's really interesting, and this is the part that excites me. The longer you follow a system like this, the more opportunities actually start appearing in your life. It's like once you're actually in the game, you start noticing all these opportunities that were always there. Once you've got $10,000 saved up, suddenly a business opportunity or a certification program or an investment opportunity that requires capital shows up. Your friend mentions they're starting a company and looking for investors. A course shows up that could boost your skills and earning potential. A real estate deal that looks promising gets mentioned to you. And now you can actually participate in it because you've got the money. Before you had the money, these opportunities were invisible to you. You just scrolled past them. But once you're actually building wealth, the opportunities become visible. And that's when things accelerate. The sixth thing that matters is realizing that your income doesn't have to stay flat. Most people on average salaries think their income is just fixed. They're making $55,000, and they're always going to be making $55,000 until they retire. But that's not true at all. Your income can grow through raises at your current job. It can grow through switching to a new job that pays more. It can grow through picking up a side gig or freelance work. It can grow through developing skills that make you more valuable to employers. It can grow through getting promoted or taking on more responsibility. And this is where having that financial foundation actually helps in ways most people don't realize. If you're not living paycheck to paycheck, if you've got some savings built up, you're in a much better position to invest in yourself and make smart career moves. You can take a course to develop new skills without panicking about the money. You can afford to take a lower paying job that has better growth potential because you don't need every single paycheck to survive. You don't need to immediately accept the first job offer that comes along because you're desperate. You can be selective, you're not desperate, And when you're not desperate, everything changes. You negotiate better because you're not coming from a position of desperation. You make better career choices because you're making choices based on opportunity rather than survival. You're willing to take smart risks because you've got a safety net. And over time, your income tends to grow faster than if you're just accepting whatever comes along because you need the money to pay rent. The person with savings is in a position of strength. The person living paycheck to paycheck is in a position of weakness. So even if you start on an average salary, there's absolutely no reason it has to stay average if you're intentional about building that foundation and then using it to make better decisions. The seventh principle is understanding that building wealth on an average salary requires patience but also momentum. This is the part that separates the people who actually build wealth from the people who quit after 6 months. When you first start saving and investing, the growth feels incredibly slow. You save $300 a month, and after a year, you've got $3,600 plus a little bit of investment returns, maybe an extra $200 or $300 if you're lucky. It's like, wow, at this rate, I'll never have anything substantial. It feels like you're dropping water into an ocean, but this is where most people quit. They do this for a year or two, don't see dramatic results, and they give up. They tell themselves it's not working. They tell themselves they need to make more money. They tell themselves they'll start again when their situation improves. But the people who actually build wealth understand something different. They understand that the first few years are about building momentum, not about getting rich. You're establishing the habit. You're proving to yourself that you can actually do this, that you're the kind of person who saves money consistently. You're building the foundation. You're letting compound interest start working, even if it seems small right now. And once you've got a few years under your belt, once you've got maybe $20,000 or $30,000 saved up and invested, that's when the momentum really kicks in. That's when you start seeing returns that actually matter. If you got $20,000 invested and earning 8%, that's $1,600 per year in returns without you doing anything. That's $133 per month in growth just from your money working. Your contributions are still there, but now your money is also making money. That's when your money is making meaningful returns on top of your contributions. The longer you stick with it, the more the math works in your favor. It becomes almost exponential. And after 10, 15, 20 years, the results become almost impossible to ignore. You've gone from making an average salary and having nothing to actually building real wealth. It's not because you got lucky. It's not because you got a huge raise or won the lottery. It's because you had a system and you stuck with it through the boring years where it felt like nothing was happening. The eighth and final principle is understanding that you don't need to be perfect. Most people think that if they can't save 30% of their income, if they can't be super strict about every single dollar, if they can't say no to every single fun thing, then there's no point in trying at all. So they don't do anything. They eat out all the time because they figure they're not saving anyway. They buy things on impulse because they're not being strict, so what does it matter? They give up before they even start. But this is completely wrong. Building wealth doesn't require perfection. It requires consistency. And consistency is something that almost everyone is capable of if they set realistic expectations. If you can save $200 per month, that's good. If you can save $300, that's better. If you sometimes save $400 when you get a bonus and sometimes only save $100 during a tight month, that's fine. The point is that you're doing it consistently over long periods of time. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be consistent. You don't have to never eat out. You don't have to never buy anything nice. You just have to do it with intention instead of randomly. And honestly, the people who try to be too strict, who cut out every possible expense and live like monks, usually burn out. They last a few months and then they crack. They go out and blow a bunch of money because they've been deprived for so long. But the people who find a sustainable level of saving, even if it's modest, that's what they stick with long term. They're saving $200 a month and they're fine with that. They're going out to eat twice a week and they're fine with that. They're buying things occasionally and they're fine with that because they've built a sustainable system that doesn't require them to be miserable. And that's what actually builds wealth. So here's what this all means for you if you're on an average American salary right now. First, figure out your actual numbers. How much are you making after taxes? How much are you actually spending? What's actually left over? Write these numbers down. Don't just think about them. Actually write them down. Second, decide on a savings target that you can actually maintain. It doesn't have to be huge. $200 per month is enough. $150 per month is enough. The key is finding something you can sustain for years. Third, set up a system that makes this automatic. Your money moves to savings before you even see it. You set it and forget it. Fourth, make sure your savings are actually working for you. They're in something earning real returns, not just sitting in a checking account earning essentially zero. Fifth, don't try to be perfect. Just be consistent. Miss a month? That's fine. Start again next month. Get a raise? Increase your savings slightly. Got a bonus? Put half towards savings. Sixth, understand that you're playing the long game. This isn't about getting rich quick. This is about decades of small, consistent choices that compound into real wealth. And the beautiful thing is that these principles work regardless of whether you're making $40,000 or $70,000 or even $100,000. The percentage is what matters, not the absolute number. The average person thinks they're too broke to build wealth, but the average person is wrong. They're wrong because they don't understand how it actually works. They think you need to earn a ton of money or have some special advantage, but you don't. You just need to understand how wealth actually works. You need a system, you need consistency, and you need patience. That's it. That's the entire secret. Most people make it way more complicated than it needs to be, but it really is just those three things. And here's the good news. All three of those things are completely within your control right now. You don't need to wait for anything. You don't need permission. You don't need more money. You can start today with whatever income you're currently making. You can start with $50 if that's all you can do. The only question is whether you're actually going to do it or whether you're going to keep making excuses about why it's impossible. Because I promise you, the longer you wait, the more expensive it becomes. Every month you don't start saving and investing is a month you're not letting compound interest work in your favor. And compound interest is literally the most powerful tool for building wealth that exists, especially when you've got decades to let it work. So the choice is yours. You can keep doing what you've been doing and wondering why nothing changes while you watch other people build wealth. Or you can acknowledge that building wealth on an average salary is absolutely possible if you're willing to follow a simple system. And frankly, I think you're smarter than to keep wondering how other people are doing it when you could actually be doing it yourself right now.